Okay, here we go. So I'm going to do a quick speed round on trying to get this here new library that I got doing. So I'm recording a video for others so they can see kind of the process of what I do when I get a new library. I also have the door open and it's raining outside, so you'll hear some of that, but that's not part of the library. All right, so just bought this new library with, it's called Design Circuits from, who's the author here? Gregor Quendel is his name. Got it off of a sound effect, the website, and the main thing is it's got a bunch of noise, servos, some pretty great sounding stuff. And this is exactly what I'm working on right now, and we're kind of rushing, so we are buying sounds at this point, or I am buying sounds and just getting things sorted through. So the metadata that came through on this is not a lot. It's got some basics in it. If I look at the metadata window, let's go ahead and pop this out. Oh, where'd you go? This one. It's kind of a cool feature. So we can go through and look and see kind of what all we've got going here. And I need to mute something real quick. So we do have a year. We have getting all kinds of messages. Jeez. Been offline for a little bit. So, anyways, the metadata that we did get is we've got the broadcast wave date, the artist, ambience, bell, reverse, how long it is, creation date, path name. That's going to be useful. And then total frames. So we're going to need to put some more stuff in here. So the first thing I'm going to do is just see what we can use to help classify these so they're a little bit more sortable. And let's see. So I'm going to go ahead and close this for now. And just going to close that too. All these file names are about that long. Description. All right. Getting these keywords out a little bit. So it looks like the sorting method, it's always, the first thing you got to do is kind of figure out what they were thinking when they put the metadata in. And it looks like it was basically done through a series of classifiers built into the file name itself. Those are also replicated in the description. Let's see. Looks like everything is there, so that's good. All right, so these are all going to be classifiers. So like ambience is all going to be in a folder. Then we've got a second more specific, and then another classifier here, the swell and the hum. So what I'm probably going to do is want to put these ambience guys all in basically what would be the category. And since ambience is actually a cat ID for the US or the UCS system, I'm going to probably put those directly into the category and then change those in a minute. So the first thing I'm going to do is just pull up a fresh workflow and this out, and we'll just build this. I've got one that kind of does this already, but build this from scratch. So I need to do a split and sort, which is here. Nope, that's not what I want. I want to do a separate items. Separate items, what it'll do is it'll look for any kind of a separator and then separate those out and then allow you to choose which number to put into a certain field. So on these we can see, like, if we're using, let's just use the description. I'm going to pull a description up closer here. And actually, that might be too small to even see, so I'll bring up the size. Let's do row height at, like, whoa, easy there. There we go, that's a little better. Okay, so now we've got our stuff here. I'm going to make this a little bigger. So the separator they're using is commas, obviously. And so what we're going to do is make sure our separator is separate description. So we're going to change description. Actually, we are using description. And then our separator is actually going to be a comma. And then it's going to ask me what number do I want to take from this. We'll start with the 1 and then what we're going to put it into. So the class or the group that we're going to put it into. And I think since this is our harmonic, what we'll probably do is typically on these new libraries, I'll just take whatever the first one is and put that into the vendor category because that's what they intended the filing to sort into. So now we've got vendor category, and if I take one of these, I'm going to turn off autoplay. If I take one of these, it should put it over here into the vendor category. And let's try it. Yeah, cool. So it did that. Basically, so now what I want to do, so that's working. I'm going to duplicate this. Same thing, and then the 2 categories. So it's a bell. Just going to see what else they call it. Tonal. Tonal will be something else. Short. So it's kind of another descriptor. So we'll use this one into the user category. Okay, so we got bell. We got another one. I'm just trying to figure out if it's this last one, if that's more general than the third one, because I think tonal would be more of a general, like static. So 1, 2, 3, filtered. It doesn't matter. We'll sort that later if we need to. So duplicate, and let's go with 3. And user comments. Yeah, we'll use user comments for now. So we know that's going to work. So it's going to put the third one in there. And then we've got another. So how many of these do we got? So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. If we've got 6, then what I might do is need to actually combine some of these. So let's do this. So we're going to take the first 3. Those are going to go vendor, user, user comments. Then we could put 1 into notes, or we could put more into notes. So what I can do at this point is, if we got 1, 2, 3, how many? What's the most that we have? That one's long. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 4, 5, 6. Okay. So I'm going to take the last 3 words and actually I'm going to put that into a category. The way that you do that, though, since this can only go into one category, you basically have to take those items and put them into what's called a temporary folder or a temporary field. And so what I'll do is I'm going to make a few more copies of this. Duplicate. This is going to be word number 4. 5, whoops, and 6. And then what I'm going to do is actually use the temporary folders that we have here. So temporary 1, then 5 is going to be temporary 2, and then temporary 3. These are like imaginary placeholders. So like you can place stuff in temporary if you want to use these terms later. So what we're doing is we're putting 1 into vendor, 2 into user category, 3 into user comments, 4 into temporary 1, which is its own field, 5 into temporary 2, which is its own field, and 6 into temporary 3. And that's going to be 6 terms. I think that'll probably be enough. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. That's cool. Okay, so now what we got to do is actually take these temporary 1, 2, and 3 and put those into its own field. So we'll bring in a field build, and then what do we want to build? What do we have? So we could use show category or show subcategory. Probably use this. So that's going there, and then the last 3 terms will be built into show subcategory. All right, so here's what you do. So basically I'm going to say show subcategory. I want to take temporary 1, and then what this does is tells it what rating or what priority it has. So if this all combined went over the total amount of characters allowed, that this would take priority over, like say the description if we did that. But since we're not doing that, we're going to say, I'm just going to use a space and go temporary 2. And we'll give that a weighting of 1 as well, because we want all these words. Then another space. 3. Oops, where's that note at? There you go. All right, and so basically all these have the category of 1, and since I'm not worried about the length, I'm just going to put this at like 200 or whatever. If it gets too long, we'll tackle that later. All right, so another thing I like to do is have all these be capitals. One of the things that is a little hidden feature in here is if you go into transfers in your preferences, there's actually a little info tab. These are modifiers that you can place on your categories, and this will actually take care of a process for you, so you don't have to actually do another step in the workflow. Just like giving it priority, you can also say do this as well, and so you have to lead with a colon and then whatever the code is for that. So you can remove vowels, remove white space, non-alphas, all this stuff, and then so what I want to do is basically just make everything all caps. So all caps is AC. Excuse me. There's some cool stuff in here. These are all very useful. So AC is the one we're looking for. So what I'm going to do is just add another modifier onto here. AC. I'm going to copy that to there and to here. And I kind of want to do it to these two, but it doesn't allow me to do that. Okay. So, what we have is where's my pen tool? Epic pen. Okay. See if this works. How do I not? I forget how to do this. Go back to here. All right, so 6 is going, so 4 is going into temporary, right? And then temporary is going to come in. We're going to send that to this show subcategory. Then we're doing 5 is going into here. That's going into here. And then this is going into here. So it's going into imaginary folder, and then we will then build that field back into the show subcategory. So it's over here behind this. I don't know how to change this. Oh, here we go. So it's going to be temp. Oh my gosh. I don't know how to do this. What's the undo button? There we go. Temp 1, temp 2, temp 3. And then since we have the all caps on and we didn't place anything in there, it's going to just be a space in between. So that's how that works. Okay, how do I delete all that? Okay, cool. And then can I close this? All right, great. So let's try it. Make this a little smaller so we can see. So it should bring out all this stuff in. Cool. So put 1 into vendor, 2 into short, or 2 into user category, 3 into user comments. Then it took the last 3 modifiers and put them into this with a space in between, and then made it all caps. So the last thing I'm going to do to make this look even cooler is make these all caps. So I'm just going to do a change case. And that's going to be vendor category. Do a cap. Oh, these are new. This is a new update too. So that's vendor category, duplicate, user category, duplicate, and then user comments. Now some people would probably want to put these into notes instead of show subcategory. I just like to have notes open and ready so that I can basically go in and put in, you know, any kind of notes that I have as I come across the sounds. So let's try this again. Great. So that's working. That's awesome. Cool. Fantastic. So the only other thing I need for the UCS is actually a effects name and then a category. The categories are going to be pretty easy. I'm probably going to use the folder system. But for the effects name, basically what you want to do is have some short version of whatever this is. So in order to do that, first let's just go ahead and print all these into their file. So I'm going to run this on every one of the things here. So looks like pretty much it worked. Like sound effects, I don't really use sound effects because it's pretty obvious that these are all sound effects. So I usually just will delete those. Short, that's fine. And so as they get more complex, they build out into their own other fields. What I can do is actually just take, like say I wanted these to actually be over here on this, because this is the first modifier, and then that is there. For these ones, I could basically come in and say, instead, let's modify this just a little bit. So we're going to go, instead of using the first one, which is something that we're going to ignore since that's the SFX, which is obvious. So what I'm going to do is actually change these numbers to the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. We won't need that one. So we'll run that. That'll move them all over into here. So now we have kind of the same, they're all kind of filling out, so that's good. Ambience tonal is, like ambience is going to be actually in the cat ID, so I'm going to delete those. And then we can actually do the same thing with this one. So ambience, we're going to go ahead and come in here. One of the cool things on the new update is with the UCS, we can bring this new window in and the UCS tagger, and I know it's ambience, and then these are going to be excuse me, all of these should be designed ambiences. They all look like a UI ambience. I'm not sure what that is. We'll have to listen to it. But so for now, we're going to do ambience designed. So that's cool. So this is great. You can put in here, like say, if you wanted to do tonal. Okay, I have all this tonal stuff I can choose from. And then when you click on it, it actually will just assign that to the cat ID, the category, and the subcategory. So it's really sweet. Or you can actually just come in here and say, like if you edit this, you know, you select on subcategory and go to E, you can actually do a search here. So like say fight. Now I have fights, and when I click on one of these, it'll actually assign that to do that. Undo. Okay. So now we need to just move these all over to here. The UI ambience is, that's okay. We'll leave that there because that's its own cat ID as well. So we're going to do the same thing with this one. I'm going to move these over just one. Okay. Great. Interference. Well. So glitch. All the glitches. Hums. Harmonic. Alright, source record. So these are the ones that are just a little different. So what we'll do is I'm going to say source record. I'm just going to take this. Oh, it does have this full thing. So what I can do, since, let me make this a little bigger. Oops. Where are you at? Here we go. So source recording, an Asus laptop. Because we definitely want to make sure it's an Asus, however you say that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take these, I'm going to take the source recording out, and we'll just put the over like on here. Let's call it source. Okay, and then basically I'm going to take the beginning of those. I want to take the source recordings out of this and just leave the identifiers. So this is a good workflow. Oh no! Whoops. Undo. So I'm going to do a save as. I've got a weird naming thing going on, so I'm going to split by, comma, description. We just got workflow sorting by alphabetizing alphabet stuff, and so you can see I was doing a bunch of weird stuff to try and get that to work before the update. So this is great. Thank you, Justin, for doing that. All right, so now I just need to take this off. I saved my workflow, which is a good habit to get into, and then I'm just going to do a clear, and then I'm going to do a find and replace, which is used all the time. And then this is the vendor category. I'm going to do obviously you could do this just by hand pretty quick, but so I've got that, and then I'm just going to leave this empty. Did I not do that right? Replace. What's going on? Why aren't you working? That should work. Let's copy it. Find and vendor category. Replace nothing. Okay, I must have spelled it wrong. Anyways, okay, so that's working. Get those out of there. Now we have this stuff. Cool. All right. So we've already got the library. That's good. The effects name we need to build real quick. So I'm going to come in here. Let's do I'm going to copy this to effects name. So copy field. To effects name. Basically, this is going to go copy this to here. Sweet. Great. I'm just looking at some of the other things that they're doing here. So we got some numbers. That's fine. The main thing is I want to take out anything that has to do with the UCS system. So they use the dash in the UCS, and that'll confuse things if you build the UCS file name and then it's got multiple dashes in it. It's not going to know what to do with those. So I want to do a remove. And we can do a remove illegals. I don't think that does anything. What I actually need to do is remove occurrences of. So dash underscore. What's another one? Those are the main ones. So let's make sure we do those. See what happens. Okay. So basically, I do want to have a separator here still, because now it's like all kind of building on each other. So what I'll do is actually, instead of this, let's put in a find and replace. And so that was it has a dun 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 like that. I'm going to do I'll use period, which seems to be fine. I'm going to duplicate this, and then if there's any underscores, it's going to make that a period. And then the other thing it's going to do is it'll have these commas in there, so we'll get those out and make those periods as well. And I forgot to change this SFX name. Let's try that. Cool. Okay, so we got a separator now. That's fine. And honestly, I do like to have my file name is pretty short, so I'm going to take out these spaces too. I'm just going to duplicate this and then go with, so any space is now going to become nothing. Let's try that. So now it's the title cased here. So the only thing I'm going to do though before I do this is, so let's do an undo. Basically, I want to go through the sorting that I have. So like say like this is going to have a, like this word is basically going to be in the file name already because it's the vendor category and the user category. So source recordings does not need to be in here in the effects name because it's like it's redundant. And so, or I'm sorry, this is the description, so I'll move that back. So in the effects name, I don't want these words to show up here because then I'm going to have a longer file name. And I like short file names. So what we'll do is after we get this built, like we can move up here on some of these, let's say, so static. These have servos on them, so that's a great identifier. So I'm going to edit one of the categories or subcategories. I'm just going to type in servo. We'll call these robots. These are going to be, so like tonal. All these are tonal, so going over to the path name. Sometimes the path name, when you get a library, actually the path name is super useful because they'll be sorting these into their own categories. So like I can sort by this and just say, I should lock this down, but so all these are ambiances. It looks like we've got all those tagged already for that, for the UCS cat ID. And then we'll go into like hums and sound effects. So these are all like electronic. Glitches, hums, and sound effects. So if we do this, and then let's bring up our UCS thing. Let's go with a hum. So we got electrical buzz or hum. That's a good option. Yep, looks like the best option right now. So I'm going to click on that. It went through and it assigned all these cat ID. I know I can just click this. Oh, their cat's really big. So it assigned all three of these things. Sweetness, let's keep going on that because this really needs to be done before the effects name. Harmonics. So I would call these like, they're pretty tonal. So I'm going to say these are actually going to be tonals. design tonal. So bring in this. So something that is designed. It's not specifically an ambience, but it is something that has tone to it. So let's see, design sounds with particular tonal nature. The ringing in your ear of tinnitus, for example. That's a good. So these are pretty good. They're also electric, but some of our other modifiers will let us know that. So that should assign those. Why is the version so long? Effects name can come down. Okay, so design tonal. It looks like we got tonal here as well, so now we can erase those just because we don't want redundancy. Tonal, tonal, tonal. Okay. Great. So it looks like we got some drones here. I guess so. I mean, I guess it is. So I'm going to actually lock this into where, oh, I don't need that, but I'm locking this search to just this library. So now I'm going to go drone. So anything that comes up as, oh no, I messed up. All right, so that didn't work. What I wanted to do was just have that library, and I think I messed that up. So let's delete this. Go into, I can basically navigate to the file folder that I want. So in lard B, which is just what I have it called as. I go back into our library. So now we're here. This is the classifier, so I'm going to actually lock this. So now it's only showing things that has a path name to this folder. And I can search for anything, and it's only going to show me the results from this folder. Alright, so some drone stuff. Where's the drone coming here? Noise pad to base drone. See, for me, I don't think I would necessarily call that a drone. It's more of a electro. All these. I mean, it's good to have the drone here because, you know, but primarily I don't think they're actually drones. They're more, they would be more like electric, you know, like electromagnetic or buzz. Where is that? I would say that's probably. Make that a little bigger. Okay. So, all right, how are we doing? On time. How long have we been going? 40 minutes. This takes forever. Okay. All right, this drives me crazy. Okay, so now let's go back and let's sort by cat ID. See, this is weird. Why is it doing that? It's not showing me only this folder. How am I? That's how it should work. It should only show this. Unlock that. So, anyways, I don't know. Maybe it's a bug or something. Okay, so here we go. This is great. Everything's good. So now we have interference. Let's go back to the path name and see. So this is interference and noise burst. Is that actually in the... So noise burst is. So this is interference. I would actually say these are like a static, like a communication static. So let's call this, actually let's just go with a glitch, or we can do communication static, that's fine. Okay, these are going to be more, noise burst is like a UI type glitch. So I'm going to say user interface glitch. These are recordings. Man, that's a laptop. This is also, I would call that like a communication static coffee maker. Weird. iPhone. Oh, okay, I get it. So this is like the recording of the phone. Interesting. Is that the same as this? No, that's close though. So these are all statics. Is there cell phone, like communications telephone? Buzz? No. I would also call this like static. What else we got? So right now I'm just trying to get all the cat IDs filled out. Sweet. Okay, now we're looking good. Okay, cool. Let's get back to the file name, or the effects name. So what we're doing here, we're going to copy these into this. And we've got, we're placing periods in. And then we're going to take all the spaces out. But before we take the spaces out, which is here, I'm going to bypass that. I'm actually going to have the, I want to use a workflow that will actually take the words that are here and, excuse me, compare what's here. And if there's matches, it's going to take it out of the effects name. That way we have a shorter effects name. So that is, what is that? How do you call that? Forget what they're. I think it's this one. Find field and replace. Yep. Okay, so it's going to find. So like say if we use category. It's going to find category in the effects name. And then if it's in there, we're going to replace it with something, which is actually going to be nothing. So what I want it to do is do a category search in the effects name, or do a search for the category, the subcategory, the vendor, and the user category. So I'm going to make a copy of this, go subcategory, duplicate, vendor category, duplicate, and user category. And user comments as well. Since we actually took these from the, I don't think we're going to have much information left over, but that's okay. Let's see what happens. So it's going to take all these. It's going to first copy the file name here. It's going to take out anything that has to do with the UCS system. Then it's going to take these. It's going to find these words in the effects name if they're there, and they're going to replace it with nothing. So let's run that and see what happens. Okay. So that worked. It took out the other stuff. And then my last final step is actually going to be to take out the spaces, because I just like it to be title case separated by a period. So we'll unbypass this. Let's run it again. We don't need that last period, but that's okay. Cool. So let me save this before I get too far. Copy. Let me see. So that's saved. Alright, so I'm just going to select a few of these. Let's just see what happens. That's interesting. So these actually ended up with a ton of periods. Oh, because we're actually taking out the commas. So let's adjust our thing here real quick. Actually, first do an undo. And then we're going to go, instead of making these all periods, let's make these spaces. Try that again. Circuits. So that's the only thing that's left over that isn't already in the category system. So I think probably what we need to do is probably find, see, design circuits is in the file, in the library, right? Yep. Okay. So let's just do an append. Since our effects names are going to be super short, we can do, let's just put on an append and do design cert. Oh, whoops, wrong. To, so wait, I messed something up. Undo. Yeah, undo. Let's go back here. And I forgot to change this to effects name. Okay, let's see what that does. Great. So at least we're going to have an identifier left over. The other thing I could do is also place in a number. Like, let's say number, let's append, and let's do, actually we might need to do this, and then we'll do the effects name. So I'm going to append a number to the end of the effects name. So if we try that, it's going to do that. I want to keep a period in there. So that's that. And then the last thing that I'm doing, since I'm working with a ton of different sounds, is just to give these their unique ID as soon as possible, because it's hard to find sounds that are like, oh, that one's awesome. So the last thing I'm going to do is actually going to set the unique ID on these. We're getting to be a little bit longer of a thing. All right, so set unique ID. The fields I've been using for these are actually over here, the IXML and the parent ID. So since sometimes these get moved around, these file IDs are based on wherever that sound is located. So if it gets moved later on and this accidentally gets reprinted, what it will do, or if we run that again, it'll actually change this number. So what I'm doing is actually copying the unique ID to the IXML. Which one is it? IXML file ID. And then from there, I'm building this field immediately that actually has a copy of the current file name and then the number. So if I do a field build, I'm going to say this is going to be file name 1, and then this is going to be underscore IXML file UID. And that can be 1, 2. And then we'll just change this to something crazy big, 200. So basically, I'm going to build the original file name, the IXML original file name, with the file ID, or it's going to copy the file name first, then underscore, then it's going to append the IXML file UID. So let's try that. Cool. So what that did is basically said, this is the current UID, and then this is also the current file name, or the original file name that I haven't adjusted yet, that came with the library. So this is the original file name, and then also the unique ID. And then putting this crazy effects name back into here. Okay, so that's all great. So the only thing we need to do at this point, I believe, is to make our file names UCS compatible. We've got all the fields that we need. So, excuse me. All right, this is one big long file, or one workflow. I'm going to try and do it all in the same one. So let's go with UCS build. All right. So include user category, yes. Include vendor category, yes. We're going to build it from the effects name as is. The creator ID is going to be the designer. The source ID is going to be the library. And the user data, if I get to choose any of this stuff, it's going to be my unique file name, or my unique ID. Is that right? Yeah, this one. Destination field, file name. All right, let's see. So that's basically taking all the information we've done and then consolidating it back into the file name. So let's just try it on this one. Sweet. So now all we got to do is make this a little shorter, because I like them to be really short. So if we go, now what we can do is actually use a find and replace to make these short. just going to see what all we can make a little shorter. So we're going to be find and replace into the file name. Let's do, like, ambience is pretty obvious. We're going to do an amb. Yeah, let's call that amb. Duplicate. Harmonic can be tonal. Duplicate, and then let's make his name a little shorter. So G. Oh, let's see. We gotta actually type it in. Let's go G. Typically try and take the what it would be without vowels, so that's fine. Duplicate, designed circuits. That's fine, right? Let's just do circuits. No, it needs to have this. Sure, why not? That'll make it a little shorter. Okay, so now it's going to run all that. Then at the very end, we're going to do a find and replace to make the file name a little shorter. Holy moly, that's not what we wanted to do. Oh, it wants me to just do, it's taking that as the new file name. Okay, so, we need to do any of the, so work on this one. There we go. So that's what we want. It's just this one. We need to undo these. So I'm gonna. Oh wait, I can do this, right? Solo. Do a solo and just make these replacements. Cool. Great. Tonal is kind of redundant here, but that's okay. Cool. All right, so almost an hour. Let's just go ahead and say, I'm going to sort this because I want to not do the one that I've already done. All of these. So this one up to here. And let's run it and see what happens. Okay. So close to being. I got 20 seconds. We're almost done. Sure, whatever. It looks great. And then the last thing we got to do is pull in the. Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Picture. And then, as they're all selected, pull in your picture. We've got our picture in there, except for the ones that I didn't do. This one and the one at the top, I think. Yay! Now just print it. And that's it. 1 hour, 30 seconds. Done.